What up, Grant? How you doing, man? I'm
I'm
good.
doing great. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
I'm ex-
Got a
I'm
movie in the
excited.
box office still going. I'm great.
It's crazy to see how far that movie's gone just in the couple of months since it's come out. I remember before when you were talking about the film that you hadn't yet seen it with an audience, so you had only seen it with your co-stars. Have you since had the chance to see it in a theater with a full audience?
Man, I've seen it with about 11 or 12 audiences now. Around the world. I've seen it with a South Korean audience, with a French audience, with an English audience, Atlanta, Miami. Glenn Powell and I, the weekend the movie came out, we actually we bounced around Los Angeles and would go to theaters and just watch the audience watching the movie, which was also an interesting experience and a lot of fun. But yeah, I've probably seen it with 11 different audiences now, I would say.
Wow, that's quite a few, but that's awesome. I mean, what has it been like for you then, seeing that, just overwhelming positive response from them since?
Yeah, and it's crazy, man. I mean, one thing I think is really amazing is no matter where we've been or where I've seen the film so far, like a lot of the moments that hold up for me and hold up for us hold up across the world, regardless of language, regardless of um, age. There's so many moments that like hold up in this film, which is such an awesome thing because it is a film that is truly universal and made for a worldwide audience. And when you hear a lot of people say that about movies, but when you actually can say that you've seen it in multiple countries now, it really, I don't know, it just reaffirms the power of filmmaking and the power of story and like how amazing like story can be and how we can entertain people across the world. And this is a film that's obviously done that. It has been really cool. It's also really cool to hear. There are obviously a few places where people laugh at different things. So it's really interesting to hear like where a South Korean audience laughed versus a French audience versus like the naval audience down in San Diego. Like it has been interesting to hear like these just little places where like you don't necessarily see a funny, like and people just like bust out laughing or chuckling, and it's great.
Everybody's sense of humor is different, but that's awesome that it's connected so universally. I'm curious though, obviously when a sequel takes as long to be produced as Top Gun 2 has, sometimes there's a reservation amongst audience or even the cast members of whether it can live up to the original. And so when you were first hearing about Top Gun 2, being in the works, what was that like for you? Did you have that similar feeling of, well, can this match the iconic status of the original?
Yeah, I think in Hollywood, I think we all kind of have that feeling. I think we've all, there's a lot of sequels that have been made and continue films that are, sequels and then obviously remakes as well. And I think we all have that feeling. You're like, oh man, I don't know, but I really want to see it. Like, and especially, I think what's interesting about this film is, you know, you really want to see where Pete Maverick is 30 years later. Like you really want to see how that guy ended up. And you know, you want to see how Iceman ended up. Like, it is really interesting, I think, with this film. I think one of the reasons that like I definitely was like, I'm in, and so many people were in, is because you really want to see like where those characters ended up all these years later. And then obviously flight and aviation looks slightly different. We are 30 plus years in the future from then, right? So it looks different. And so what does flying look like, and what does filming flying look like, I think is also another thing that a lot of people were really drawn to. But I think when, one of the things we talked about on set was like, this movie it was one or the other. It was either going to be a flop or it was going to be the most amazing thing ever, only because this title is so loved. Like Top Gun is so loved by people that like we knew the bar that we had to get to make sure that everybody, loved it as much as we did.
So now that it's become as big of a success as like you said, you sort of anticipated, there has been hopes and talks of a potential third movie, and I'm curious what your feelings are on that possibly happening.
Grant, I feel like you're trying to make me take the swim test again. And I got to tell you, man, it was a hard swim test. It was really, It was tough, Grant. It was really tough. Listen, I would love to be in a third. If Paramount's listening right now, let's make a third one. Why not? We'll see. I think one of the things that is going to, really be a big part of a third, if there ever were a third, and I have not heard that there's a third. So, but I think that, like, how do you film the flying? And I think, how is flight different from this film to the next film? Because I think that's one of the things that Tom will tell you, in the 30 plus years of him not making this movie, one of the reasons that it took him a while was because he really wanted to be able to film the flight experience for what it is. And the only way to do that was to be able to get in the back of F-18s and put cameras in there and put actors in there. And I think we've now created that experience. And so it's like, what is the next version of that? The next iteration of that, I think, is really a big part of whatever that next film could be.
Well, it'll be exciting to see what comes from that, because you're right. I mean, it has evolved in such a way that's made it even more exciting than the original film with this new one. Now, before I let you go, the beach football scene is obviously one of the most talked about moments, and that it recreated that sort of volleyball feel. And I remember a story about Glenn recalling how he went and enjoyed a bunch of sweets right after filming, and then had to come back for reshoots. Did you have a similar sort of situation with that filming process?
Yeah, we all went out the night after we shot that scene. We all went out to a place downtown San Diego. I think it was called Busby's, maybe. It was a Tots place. It was like Tots and wings. Like, that was kind of like their specialty. And we all sat around and, like, had a beer and ate wings and tots and dessert, like sweets and cookies and cakes. And Danny ate like a ghost pepper hot wing and, like, literally, like, burned his lip because he just, like, took, just a massive, just, but we all did that, and we all paid for it, because about 3 or 4 days later, our first AD and Tommy, our executive producer, walks over to us, and they're like, yeah, we got to shoot that again. And from that moment, everyone was like back to broccoli for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Plus we were on treadmills, plus we were working out, plus we were in saunas sweating, just to get ready to reshoot it.
Well, it came across very well. I am amazed still at how well the movie came together these many years later. I can't wait to keep revisiting it. Thank you, Jay, so much for taking the time to chat. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it.